To accuse Kavanaugh of sexual misconduct, saying he was present at parties, she was present at parties in high school where boys targeted young women with drugs and alcohol to take advantage of them. This is Kavanaugh's first accuser. Christine Blasey Ford is due to testify in open hearing tomorrow. That's one day before the Senate Judiciary Committee is set to vote on the president's nominee. The committee has selected Arizona prosecutor Rachel Mitchell to do the questioning tomorrow. She's the chief of the Special Victims Division of Maricopa County Attorney's Office and has extensive experience dealing with sexual assault cases. Earlier, President Trump praised Republicans' handling of the process. Watch it.
The Republicans could not be nicer in the way they're handling this. They could have pushed it through 2.5 weeks ago, and you wouldn't be talking about it right now, which is frankly what I would have preferred. And he's been treated very unfairly by the Democrats who are playing a con game. They know what they're doing. It's a con. They go into a back room and they talk with each other, and they laugh at what they're getting away with.
Democrats pulling no punches. They're going after Republicans on the committee over their decision to have a prosecutor spearhead tomorrow's hearing and set a vote for Friday. Here's Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer.
They've proposed the vote before the hearing occurs. Isn't that prejudgment? And they are acting, when they propose the vote before the hearing, as if the conclusion was foreordained and the hearing is just a nuisance. This isn't a Democratic smear job, as the leader so callously and disrespectfully suggested. This is a Republican rush job, and I might add, a rush job to avoid getting to the truth.
Meanwhile, Blasey Ford's attorneys have now submitted signed declarations from 4 different people corroborating parts of their client's story, they say. Mike Emanuel live on Capitol Hill as this story picks up heat right before that hearing tomorrow. Mike.
Harris, good afternoon to you. I am told the Senate Judiciary Committee is reviewing this latest allegation. They've received it from attorney Michael Avenatti. Avenatti has sent in a sworn declaration from his client named Julie Swetnick. He has described her as courageous, brave, and honest. She is now a third accuser. Now, on the Judge Kavanaugh side of things, his side has turned in old calendars. For example, let's take a look at May 1982. It shows what kinds of things Judge Kavanaugh was doing at the time, and to show that he did not attend a party like the one Professor Christine Blasey Ford has described. He did cut the grass on the 3rd, and Kavanaugh went to his friend Timmy's party at the beach on the 22nd. Also today, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell blasted the Democrats for the way they've treated Judge Kavanaugh.
If you're a public servant whose confirmation the far left happens to oppose, because they dislike the fact that you will interpret the law and the Constitution according to what they mean, rather than what the far left wishes they would mean, they'll not hesitate to weaponize uncorroborated allegations and drag your name and your family right through the mud.
As for that hearing tomorrow, Republicans have hired a veteran sex crimes prosecutor from the Phoenix area named Rachel Mitchell to ask questions. Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley notes Mitchell has been recognized in the legal community for her experience and objectivity. A leading Judiciary Democrat says this hearing will be totally different for her.
I'll tell you one thing for sure. This prosecutor has never walked into a courtroom without an investigative file. Has never had a case before her where she didn't take the time to evaluate the witnesses and evidence before any trial. She's going to walk into this committee room tomorrow without that benefit because the White House and the Senate Republicans have refused an investigation.
Adding to the emotion, Democrats are clearly irritated that Chairman Grassley has scheduled a 9:30 a.m. Friday vote on the Kavanaugh nomination. Harris.
Mike Emanuel, thank you very much. Let's bring it out to the couch. So, David Avella, as this information is coming together with the 4 people who purport to be able to corroborate Dr. Ford's story and now this witness, according to Michael Avenatti, what are your thoughts?
It speaks to what we don't know and what we do know. We don't know the outcome of this hearing tomorrow. We don't know what the judge is going to say. We don't know what these accusers are going to say and how people are going to react to it. We don't know how voters are going to react to what the Senate vote will ultimately do. What we do know, we know that Michael Avenatti is running for president in 2020, and he's doing everything he can to get attention. We do know that the self-professed Blue dog Democrats in the Senate are now lapdogs to this demand justice group is doing everything they can to derail this nomination. And the third thing we know is the Democrats had no problem putting Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court in 42 days. They didn't have a single problem putting Sonia Sotomayor on the court in 63 days. And now they have the gall to sit here and say that the Republicans are trying to rush this nomination through. It's outrageous.
Capri?
Boy, where do I even start? Let me back up and just let's start with Michael Avenatti. And we were talking about this a little bit before we went on air. The fact that he is involved in all of this really it colors this very terribly, I think, from a Democratic perspective, because ultimately it looks like it's some kind of a ploy, and that's what Republicans have been saying this entire time, that, you know, that Feinstein sat on this memo, and, you know, we've been waiting around. If we really cared about women, then then Feinstein would have gone forward at the time and have engaged in this situation. And the timing is suspicious. The timing is suspicious, but that does not mean that these individuals don't have credible allegations and should not, and they deserve to be heard. And we've heard this even from Republicans like Lisa Murkowski, who just said, I believe it was yesterday, that she was interested in having the second accuser, you know, come and testify in front of the committee. So now with a new one with very serious and salacious allegations, the real question is, will this individual now have an opportunity to come forward and talk?
Well, let's talk about the new one, because these are some very, very serious allegations. Unfortunately, a couple of things can be true at the same time.
That's right. I agree.
Michael Avenatti is scummy and gross. I don't know what an Avenatti Democrat looks like. I'm assuming it's a few progressive sociopaths.
Don't look over here. Don't look over here.
I don't think he generates too much excitement for 2020, because if this is what's going to happen every time a president nominates someone for the Supreme Court, and this is the disgusting process that we go through, people aren't going to want more of that. They're not going to want more demagoguery and bombast. But this woman specifically is saying that not only was she at parties where women were drugged and raped by multiple boys, but she was also the victim of such an incident. And, you know,
and she accused Kavanaugh of it, who has said, to Martha McCallum that he was a virgin.
She has named him in a document, a sworn document, and now it's very unfortunate that Michael Avenatti has placed himself at the middle of this, and that's where we are. But this really changes the tenor of the conversation we're having about the two other accusers, Deborah Ramirez and Dr. Ford. She's going to testify tomorrow, and what I'm curious about is whether or not this Arizona sex crimes prosecutor is going to be able to talk to her about some of these rumors, whether she knows this third accuser, and if she had heard the same thing about these parties that were happening concurrently while she was in high school.
So why would that be important for Christine Ford to know?
Because she's the only person who's testifying before the Senate Judiciary Committee. She's the only person who is, you know. So
you think maybe today her attorneys would have her come up to speed on this? I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that this would be two different sets of circumstances.
Then what do you do? Do you have another witness come forward that is
this is a delay? It's back to the delay issue. Do you have a separate hearing? Do somehow you throw this woman into the mix tomorrow at 9:30 a.m.? Is that even fair?
Yeah, every week and a half you have another person come forward who's made some sort of a sworn statement corroborating a story, and if so, is...
All right, I want to get Morgan in here. So we have a vote. It's a committee vote that's set on Friday. This is not a full Senate vote. That doesn't happen until early next week. Does this open the door then for a listen to or a look at some of these other people coming forward? And by the way, they're not all women. At least one of them is a man who has purportedly or